So this is definitely a new one for me. I've never had to do an exposed stud look, and I've definitely never had to do one around a dog's breakfast like this. So stick around and watch as I show you the process of how to frame, board, tape, and mud this thing and have it come out looking good and lasting a long time. Okay, first let's get a look at what we are dealing with. So it was a closet where they removed the drywall off of this wall. My only guess is that this is going to be an office space of some kind, because the reason we are doing this is to make the space feel less claustrophobic. The only reason it would feel claustrophobic is if you're doing something in this space. So the first thing we need to do is establish the framing in here. I got some lines drawn on here. Make sure that lines up. We're going to be planing the wall through here and up around here. So we'll just line this up with the lines I drew on my studs. Right about there. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of the cure. Okay, you guys, I've now got framing everywhere I need it. I've got insulation everywhere I need it. And I can start to put the vapor barrier up. Okay, vapor barrier is done and is looking pretty good. I'll show you guys a little bit. So I just tacked it up on the top and then slid it where the studs are and wrapped it around like a Christmas present, and did the same thing with this piece in here. I just ran it long on both sides and again slid it where the studs are, wrapped it around. Now this is a 100-year-old house. It doesn't matter if you do a perfect vapor barrier, because the second you go up to here, all of a sudden none of it has vapor barrier. So the only way to do a perfect vapor barrier on an old house is to literally gut it and do the whole thing from scratch. But I always try and do my best, because you know what, maybe down the road somebody does open all this up, at least they can tie into a previously done good job where there isn't any yet. So there's no way I'm gonna be able to show you guys this process and get home at a reasonable time tonight. So I'm just gonna show you them, chunk 1, chunk 2, chunk 3. So this is chunk 1. Chunk 1, chunk 2, chunk 3, chunk 4, chunk 5, chunk 6, and chunk 7, and chunk 6. So now we can see what this is actually going to look like. In my opinion, it's actually pretty cool. I think it's turning out better than I expected already. So I'm done for the day, but tomorrow I'm going to come back and tape this all. All right, I'm nice and refreshed, and first thing we got to do is start pre-filling everything. So I am using a quick setting material. I'm going to get all the gaps going up to this thing nice and full. And then leave it nice and flat so that it tapes out well. What's it doing? Pretty flat there. Big fill there. When you got your hot mud mixed, that's the time to be handling the really thick fills. Because once you put your tape on after, if you leveled it out first, then you don't have to put so much mud on for your next coats. Because I'm joining up to plaster here, it's not flat at all. But now it's a lot better. So we're off to a good start here. Okay, quick scrape down of all the high spots once it sets up. And then we'll be ready for taping. And all this stuff's got to be really flat before we start taping, and we don't want any crumbs in it either. So there is a lot of annoying little joints to tape here. It's a small enough job that I'm just going to hand tape everything instead of like get out the super taper. But yeah, lots of annoying little things to tape. And I think if I try and show you guys the whole process, it's just going to take forever. So there's this seam right here that definitely needs tape. And I think what I'll do is I'll get everything all nice and coated, or what am I talking about, coated? I'll get all the little stuff taped. You guys don't need to see how to do all the butt joints, all the inside corners, because I've shown all of that in other videos. What I really do want to show you guys is how to tape in these studs and the sequence. So I'll show you after each stage. So here's where we are so far. Flat taped against the upright one, inside corner taped. We got, what is that, mid flex 250, straight flex in there. Haven't done the corner bead yet. Got the joints taped. Another mid flex in there, and flat taped up to the edge again. So doing all the little flat tapes around this is pretty annoying, but there is a quick way to do it. Couple of quick little tapes. Give it a couple mils of mud, not too much. Snug them up against the stud or whatever piece of wood it is. And if you didn't put too much mud on it, they should wipe out really fast and easy. Keep this part clean. That will stop the mud from being able to crack out and fall out of those gaps, because there's no gaps. And now I'm about to do the most complicated corner bead I have ever done in my entire career. I've done bigger jobs with lots of difficult corner beads, but this one takes the cake. Okay, first off, I got this little notch down at the bottom on a 45, just so I can even fit it next to one of these studs. And then I've got to rough cut the length. Probably right here. Yeah. Okay, so far this is really nothing special. The hard part is I actually have to notch it around these studs. So we got to take some of the corner bead out. That'll be a challenge, but I'll show you guys how to do that. First, let's cut this right there. That shows us exactly where to do it. Not so lucky on that side, so we'll just make a mark. So here's where it gets fun. I need there to be a 1/2 inch room. Carpenter's pencil is about a 1/2 inch, so that'll work. So between this slot and this slot, I need to take out a 1/4 inch of this steel. So what we are going to do is score the metal with this knife and create a weak spot. See that line there? Now we are going to cut it to that line on our other marks. And now we take some pliers and we gently start bending it. Careful, because we don't want to break the bead. So just go gently. We don't want to bend it, the bead that is. We're only trying to bend it on this one spot. So go slowly. It'll crack in one spot. Carry on. There it is, right there. So now I'm going to repeat that exact process on the second one, and hopefully we have a nice snug fit. So I haven't had to do this in a really long time, and I don't even remember exactly what job I was doing where I learned this. It actually wasn't in drywall. It was a construction thing. Like, we had to cut some, maybe it was like steel framing, or maybe it was flashing. But basically we needed to cut it, but we didn't have like an angle grinder to get in there. An angle grinder could do this, but this actually does a better job. Like, it does a really clean job, if you guys can't tell. The only thing, you just really got to make sure that you aren't warping and twisting the bead. And then you got to check these corners to make sure they're not sticking up too much after. But it's a pretty simple process. We're just working with metal fatigue and creating a little line so that it breaks on the weakest point. It's super simple. And I recommend doing a test piece before you try this out. That's what I did on this one. Anyways, let's see how these fit. I only have one corner bead too, so I get one shot on this. Okay, I drew a couple lines so that I could line it up in the same spot again. Oh, like a glove on that one. How about this one? Looks like we need to take a hair off of this one, but man, that's looking pretty close. Once you've got that relief cut in there, taking off a little bit is not that hard. Oh, like a glove. That's perfect. Now I can install it. Oh. Oh, you guys, I'm pleased with this. Definitely happy with how that turned out. Nice and tight. That was a tricky one. And it's even straight. Like, how about that? You don't get that all the time. We gotta do some weird stuff right here because we gotta make sure that doesn't crack down the road. So I'll show you guys that. This spot from the corner bead to here is for sure gonna crack if we don't do something. So I'm taking a piece of fiber fuse, and there's gonna be a bit of fussing and building out here. It just is what it is. And now, fiber fuse cuts so nice and easy and lays so flat, so there's that. And I even want something right here because I don't trust that spot either. And we could just wrap this around. That's fine. We'll recreate that edge through the coating process. There we go. That's nice. And why not just give it a quick little pre-coat, huh? Ooh, couldn't see that from my angle. There we go. And that's almost it for the day. I'm just gonna use Fibofuse and tape some of these plaster cracks because it sits so nice and flat. I don't have to dig them out or do anything crazy. And that'll be the end of my day. So we'll get back to this when I start coating it tomorrow. At this point, there's not a lot left to do but to coat it. And it's gonna be a little bit tricky, but it shouldn't be too hard. Just gotta kind of get the mud on and take it off. And like I always say, it doesn't matter how you put it on, it only matters how it looks when you take it off. Had to tape a lot of plaster cracks on this wall because I couldn't have all this nice new drywall butting up to a bunch of old cracked plaster. Just wouldn't look nice. Skim out the bubbles. And then recoat. Get up nice and tight to that post. That's not bad for a first coat. Okay, you guys. So as much as I would love to film the whole process for you, the only thing stopping me from finishing early and going skateboarding this afternoon would be excessively filming. So let's just show this one wall, how we're gonna do it. Shouldn't take too long. Careful not to slop it over. I think I'm even gonna go this way so that I don't slop it onto those studs. I didn't need to do that back there. I just wasn't thinking. That's what happens when you get talking to the camera sometimes. You get more focused on what you're saying than on the job. And whenever I start to get more focused on the actual work, that's when I start saying things that don't make sense. Double-edged sword there. Oh, a little empty right there. Feather. All right, almost there. Bead's a tiny bit empty. There we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, just this thing. Stuff like this can be especially annoying to tie in. It would almost be easier if I actually let this stuff firm up, the stuff around it firm up a little bit before trying to tie it in. I may end up touching it up when it's all dried up a little. It's warm today, so that won't be long. That looks good enough for a first coat. Not too bad. You don't want to bury the line on these. That's the most important thing, because you got to be able to sand that away to keep that nice straight edge. Okay, let's take a look, shall we? So I've been doing a little extra work on this job too, skimming this wall out to make it pretty. We've got that joint there, hiding nicely. You can see where the tape is drying out faster than the sides, but it's nothing to be concerned about. We can see this joint is hiding well. And we got some blisters coming in underneath the paint. That's just this old paint here. And as far as how it's looking by all the studs, well, this part of the wall just isn't flat, so it is what it is. That one's looking pretty good, nice and straight. That one's a lot straighter. The bottom one's pretty straight too. And we got everything all coated out. And here it is from this side. It's gonna look pretty sharp when it's actually done. Look forward to seeing it without the tape, but that might not be till after paint. You know, I used to find that sponge sanding in between coats was completely unnecessary. But over time, especially on ones with more complicated details, I have found that that little bit of sponge sanding between coats is actually what separates my mediocre jobs from the really great ones. So I find it essential. Sorry guys, I forgot to film coating any of the drywall around the studs, but you did already see it. So you get the general idea, and you've seen me coat drywall in so many different videos if you've been around a while, that you get the general idea. Put it on, take it off, leave it smooth, so you don't have to sand too much. Anyways, I will show you guys what it looks like after I finish sanding tomorrow, because I kind of don't feel like filming anymore until it's all done. Oh, this is just a wall that had wallpaper removal that needed to be skimmed a couple times. That's what I'm doing right now, in case you were wondering. Okay, you guys, it's all done, and you'll have to bear with me. The sound, the video is a little different. This is my cell phone. I forgot my camera today, but we don't have much work to do anyways. So first we gotta cut out this tape with a nice sharp blade. Okay, you guys, it is done. And I'm pretty happy with it. That's it, looks pretty crisp. So that's it, you guys. I hope you learned something from this video. As always, I hope your projects are going well, but I hope you're doing even better. Till the next one.